Jaime Lizárraga was sworn in as SEC commissioner yesterday. But the interesting thing about this is before he was sworn in to become an SEC commissioner, he was a senior advisor to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and oversaw issues related to the financial markets, small businesses, international finance, and served as a middleman for Pelosi to the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. And if you guys are not aware, Nancy Pelosi and her husband have been accused of doing really, really well at trading recently. Most of these calls and stock buys that she's done has been through her husband. And the reason why this is so interesting is that on July 7th of 2022, so not too long ago, there was a Cointelegraph story that broke, and it basically stated a new legal advisory notice from the U.S. Office of Government Ethics prohibits any employee who owns cryptocurrency from working on federal crypto regulation. And the reason why this is important is we have somebody that worked very closely with Miss Nancy Pelosi, and she's been accused of doing some pretty shady things, but now this person is working as a commissioner at the SEC. Is this fair? Is it not fair? Should we be concerned? I'm personally concerned, and I am not with it. I would actually like to give this to Jen for your take.
So I think it's important to separate the two stories, right? While Jaime worked for Nancy Pelosi, Jaime wasn't involved in this Nancy Pelosi story. But I also think the government should read the room. What an inopportune time to have this unfold and have people like us ask those questions, right? I mean, seemingly the two are very separate, but I think if we ask enough questions, we may get down a rabbit hole, and I think that's what you're alluding to, Wendy. So I think this is a really inopportune time. It feels like maybe the right questions aren't being asked when we think about PR and marketing strategies on a government level, but I think to relate Jaime back to the Pelosi scandal is unfair. But David, I'll pass it up to you.
I think that it might be unfair, but I think the point about appearances is really important, especially, if I was a Democratic strategist, I would be probably agitating for new rules restricting members of Congress and their activities in financial markets. Even as, Wendy's perception, I think, is totally fair. If you have somebody who is a former assistant to a senator or a representative who has been accused of borderline insider trading on her legislative power, and then they go into a leadership position in the SEC. If nothing else, it does not look good. And I think that there has been an increasing drumbeat of dissatisfaction about various legislators, not just Pelosi, but various legislators' financial activities. And I think that, the Democrats have a serious electoral challenge coming up with the midterms this year. And they could do something. And the fact that they haven't, honestly, to me, just screams influence peddling and the idea that somebody like Nancy Pelosi isn't willing to give up whatever alpha she's gaining on her investments, even to maintain some better appearance of actually being a public servant. And wherever you come down politically, I feel like you have to acknowledge that there is an appearance that is doing these legislators no favors in terms of actually proving that they're there to serve the people and not themselves. So, I think that it is maybe an appearance more than a substance thing, but the appearance matters. Will, I saw you nodding your head. You want to chime in?
Yeah, this just brings me right back to our last story with Celsius, right, where they're insider trading their own token. It seems anyone in power is going to take the opportunity to better their financial situation, and that comes at the cost of both their integrity and the people who under them who are going to be involved with this. So the interesting story here as well is that the Pelosi family recently purchased a lot of NVIDIA stock, and now there is some legislation before the House and the Senate talking about the U.S.'s ability to increase chip allocations or chip production within the U.S. And it seems that Nancy Pelosi is in favor of that legislation. So whether or not those two things are correlated or not, it doesn't really matter because it's all about perception, right? So probably not so unwise or foolish to be so blatant about it. That seems unlikely. But at the very same time, you have to think you need to be careful with this stuff. And whoever is on her team is not being very careful with this. And she's been long knocked for it, right? There was quite literally a Twitter account dedicated to tracking her portfolio versus other people's over time. And she was a clear winner. And then Twitter took out that account, right? And so it only brought up more conspiracy theories about what's going on with her and her power. Anyone in a position of power has the ability to do these things. And that's why we all like the Bitcoin on this show. Wendy, I'll throw it up to you.
Yeah, I just also want to clarify too that the speaker does not own any stocks, and apparently, according to her spokesperson, they told Fox Business that the speaker had no prior knowledge of her husband's transactions, and that
that's
we can
crazy.
Can I just say, are you kidding?
I just want to say that's crazy.
This is the thing, okay? When you get divorced in California, you get half. Everybody gets half, okay? You split things in half. So how do you not know what your partner is doing? How do you not know when this is all public? When there's literally a tweet. Exactly. So even though the spokesperson said that she doesn't own stocks, that it was her husband's, whatever it is, the fact that you don't know what your partner is doing is a bunch of BS. And on top of it, like Will said, there was a Twitter account that was dedicated to following the trades. And also it's all over TikTok, like all over FinTalk. That's all they talk about. And they literally follow Nancy Pelosi's, with air quotes for those that are listening, not watching. They follow the trades, and these kids are doing immensely well trading. So the fact that they're coming out and they're, given this lip service, I personally don't buy it, but that's what this story is.
If anybody's listening to the podcast, I'm rolling my eyes so hard, I think I might sprain something.
We're just going to start describing our actions for the people on the podcast from now on.
We should.
So we'll say our take, and then we'll be like, and the actions during my take were as such. But before we take
this is an accessible broadcast now.